Let's now take some reports from the 20th dialogue held on Thursday, 26th January here in Abuja. Discussants at the 20th Daily Trust Dialogue examined the quality of blueprints of presidential candidates seeking electoral mandate and observed there is no clear roadmap on how to actualize the agenda. Now, Trustee Shafi'u Suleiman reports that there is a consensus among participants for a collective demand for elections to hold despite the reservations, just as the nation was tasked to use the polls and solidify its democratic leadership in Africa. The report.
The 20th Daily Trust Dialogue is themed interrogating the 2023 presidential agenda. Setting the tone of discussion, Chairman, Board of Directors, Media Trust Limited, Malam Kabir Yusuf, expressed worry over discordant tunes as the nation goes to the poll next month, asking stakeholders to give Nigeria a chance.
Indeed, if all the citizens of this country ignore the provocations, Nigeria could be the ultimate winner at the polls. So it is obviously in our collective interest to give this poor yet rich country another chance to rise from the ashes.
Reiterating the commitment of the United States to the elections in Nigeria, U.S. Ambassador tasked the nation to solidify its democratic leadership in Africa. Just as she said, U.S. visa ban target those working to undermine the election.
Individuals who undercut or undermine the democratic process in any way, including through intimidation and violence, may be found ineligible for visas to travel to the United States. We have taken steps in the past to impose U.S. visa restrictions against those complicit in undermining the electoral process, and you may have seen that Secretary Blinken announced just yesterday that we have identified specific individuals for such past actions.
Truly free, fair, and credible elections, that is the only way from which will emerge at all levels of government, men and women, ready to serve the nation with dedication, sincerity, honesty, and integrity.
Interrogating the agenda of the frontline presidential candidates, the panelists raised questions on the structures and actions plan of the flag bearers to execute their promises in the face of existing factors undermining the actual growth and development of the nation.
It's nice for the political class to scare us as much as it has been done today, with the likelihood of everything going wrong within the period of an election. It's the responsibility of every government in power to ensure at this moment that the country is in a state in which we can actually have an election.
Simply because whenever anybody takes an oath of office, they place their hand on the Bible or Quran to swear to uphold the Constitution. They don't place their hand on the Constitution and start swearing to uphold the Bible or Quran.
We can buy competence, we can buy capacity, we cannot buy character. So as we plan to vote, please look at the antecedents of the candidates. Yes, none of them is perfect.
There is no secret in the conduct of public affairs in Nigeria. Most of us know what's happening. We know those who are stealing, we know how far the stealing goes. We may not know all.
Nigerians will go to the polls on the 25th of next month to elect a new president and members of the National Assembly. But the political atmosphere is consistently becoming uncertain due to comments by political actors and the frightening insecurity in some parts of the country, even as the electoral umpire and security agencies remain positive about the conduct of the elections. Shafi'u Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Still on the Daily Trust Dialogue, participants have said the dialogue has given opportunity to Nigerians to contribute to national discourse on challenges confronting them. Aisha Saliu speaks to some participants on their takeaways from the 20th dialogue.
Most participants at the dialogue are positive that discussions at fora like this will contribute to national consensus on issues. They said the theme of the dialogue, interrogating the 2023 presidential agenda, is coming at the right time to guide and inform the electorate's opinions and decisions of choice of candidates during the forthcoming elections.
And it is important that a platform like this is provided for the people so that they can air their views and also listen to opinions from experts on what to expect and what to interrogate the leaders that are coming to take over political power.
The challenge now is for Nigerians to raise their voices. There must be an election on the 28th of February and on the 5th of May. There must be. Under any condition, Nigerians should not and will not accept any arrangement that is outside the Constitution of this Federal Republic.
On speculations of alleged postponement of elections, INEC's National Commissioner for Information, Festus Okoye, says the Commission is prepared to hold the elections as scheduled.
And as of today, over 70% of the non-sensitive materials required for the conduct of these elections have already been delivered to site. This election, we have fixed presidential and National Assembly elections for the 25th of February and governorship and state assembly elections for the 11th day of March. Those dates are fixed and firm, and we are going to go ahead with the conduct of the elections. So if there's any sector of the Nigerian society that is not yet ready, that sector should go and get ready, because this commission is going to proceed with the election.
This year's dialogue is the 20th since inception of Daily Trust annual dialogue in 2004.
Well, other speakers also highlighted the issues bordering on the 2023 elections. Take a look.
Voter apathy is simply as a result of the type of politics we practice in Nigeria. It is sort of connection. If you don't know anybody, you cannot make any headway. And not that is not politics. I read government, which became political science in Ahmadu Bello University. I graduated in 1974. But what I see going on is not the type of politics that I learned in the university and I saw in other places. If you are not connected to a governor, you become nothing in your life. That is not politics. No matter how brilliant you are, it is absolutely nothing if you don't know anybody. Unless we change the way and manner we do things in Nigeria, we will continue to go down.
It's not about those people who are seeking for leadership alone. It's about Nigeria and Nigerians. And they must say no to being used to perpetuate violence among and against themselves. They must say no to all the kind of atrocities that have followed the activities of we politicians. Because every time we come, promises are made, election after election cycle, those elections are not fulfilled, and leaders are not interrogated at the end of it, and Nigerians just keep quiet and go back to the same election cycle. We end up electing and becoming, hostage to the problems that we have gone through year after year. So in a nutshell, the democracy in Nigeria must work and be anchored on rule of law. The institutions that operate democracy, the three significant ones, the executive, legislature, and judiciary, must be allowed to function effectively in accordance with the laws of the land. Because we don't allow them to function properly, or at least those in charge don't operate them in accordance with the law, that is why the problems we see go on in Nigeria. The final point I want to make is this. INEC. Festus is here, my good friend. Unless we start up with free, fair, and credible election, everything else cannot work.
This is a very interesting dialogue. How many people living here can say, yes, that election is going to hold with confidence? And that is why we are here, perhaps to cross mind and assure ourselves that that election is going to hold. I'm not sure I can go here confidently that why? The insecurity that we have been witnessing in this country has continued even up to the last night. The guns that are in the hands of the youths who know nothing about shooting are enormous. And it was all watched and distributed by perhaps those who ought to have recalled all the arms that are in hands of unlicensed people, as it used to be said those days. Now is a common tool in the hands. We are going to battle with what? Technology in this voting time. Even America, as sophisticated as it is, they are not using the system we are going in.
Interrogating the 2023 presidential agenda, the policies, the programs, and the manifesto. If you don't have a Nigeria, you can't even talk about policies and programs or manifestos of these parties. The fundamental question we're asking now is the question of inclusiveness or exclusiveness. Societies that were great have failed because of excessive exclusion. So is the question that the panelists should address, is there an attempt in 2023 to guarantee inclusion of all people, a manner of tribes in Nigeria, or is there an attempt to exclude a segment of the society which will guarantee lack of peace, and these young people will not even have a future if this country runs into anarchy? And I want to ask the Madam Kabiru and all our northern people, let history not repeat itself. In 1936, a northerner was ruling and we had an end to democracy. In 1984, a northerner was ruling, we had an end to democracy. In 1992, a northerner was ruling and we had a truncation of democracy. In 2023, a northerner is ruling and we're talking about truncation of democracy. Let this not happen in Nigeria, because it will doom a whole people and a segment of society. Every northerner must ensure that Buhari and the electoral empire runs a credible election and ensure that there is transition of democracy in 2023, so that we don't have history on our side counting negative.
What a fitting way to usher us back into the studio. We still have with us Nuruddin Abdallah, the editor of 21st Century Chronicle. Do I need to welcome you back? You have listened quite extensively to the submissions that was made yesterday at the 20th dialogue. And starting off with the last speaker there was quite a number of apprehension in the room about feelers, about the elections not holding. It started gaining traction, I think 2 days ago, when the APC presidential candidate talked about fuel scarcity and the Naira redesign being, what would I call it, ploys to scuttle the elections. And now these conversations are beginning to pop up here and there, despite repeated assurance by the president at various forums, home and abroad, and including the INEC, that they are ready for the elections. What comes to your mind, and why do you think at every point in time, we keep saying our elections is a crossroad?
We can only decipher that properly if you go some months back. You remember there are even some legal luminaries. I remember Chief Afe Babalola. One and another senior SAN, as his name, the call for interim government. Remember this correctly. These are legal luminaries. They are the totem pole of the legal profession, and they are making these public submissions. Then what do you expect a layman in Kano, Jigawa, Maiduguri, Katsina, Ala, Ibonya, whatever you talk about? And immediately after that, the president was in Saudi Arabia, and he cleared the air that he was not contemplating third time. he swore with the Holy Quran. I remember he was addressing Nigerians living in Saudi Arabia, that he swore with the Holy Quran that he will not, I think his words, he will not do anything outside the Constitution. But Obasanjo wanted to get the Constitution amended to include his third term. So even after the president assurance, yeah, he sought to uphold the letters and spirit of the Constitution. But the Constitution can be amended to include whatever his desires are. You understand? That is it. A fortnight ago, the INEC chief was at Chatham House, London. In unambiguous language, he said the election will hold. You understand? As scheduled. The president said that earlier, and what if you. Then the discordant tunes coming out from some quarters, people that should know. Then some 24 hours ago, in Abeokuta to be specific, a ruling party's candidate, Swaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu, publicly declared that the perennial energy crisis rocking every nook and cranny of the country, the deliberate confusion over the banknote swap, old and new Naira notes, whatever, it were all plots to sabotage him. He spoke in Yoruba, as usual of him. If he wants to hit a certain people, he will use the other language. You understand? You remember it was the same Abeokuta that we had Olule, Emeloka, Olule, whatever, you understand? Some hours after that, then people started asking, if it were Atiku that saying this, understandable, or my comrade, Omole Sori, or Al Mustafa, or any other parties. But this is the ruling party's candidate complaining of a policy by the government he is part and parcel of.
He said them.
Okay, them. So hours later, you know, we see damaging, we see fire brigade approach, you know, to
London,
done to macromanage what the ruling party's presidential candidate said. In Benue, he accused his opponent, his major opponent, Atiku Abubakar, of masterminding the fuel crisis. We don't know. The last time Atiku was in government was May 29, 2007. Talking about 12 straight, 16 years ago. So we don't know the magic that Waziri Adamawa is using to manipulate a system he left 16 years ago. That's by the way. Then what of the money swap? So what is happening actually is the layman on the street will say, okay, if there's something in the oven, if there's something that is being cooked elsewhere that we don't know, if there's Asiwaju will complain, then who else?
Okay, well, in addition to, you know, the participants and panelists, you know, talking about the candidates not having a clear roadmap, you know, talking about their manifestos, you know, there's something the former Katsina State Governor Alhaji Ibrahim Shema actually said. He said all candidates have similar agendas, but not the central issue. You know, only promises, you know, of elections, you know, and all that. But one central issue he's talking about is unity. Do you think since these candidates cannot even unify, you know, their party members, they will be able to unify the country?
So that's a bigger question, you know. And coincidentally, saw him speaking, you know. He's speaking, he's completely a reformed person now. Because you remember when he was going for second time, you remember all the statements attributed to him. Thank God now that His Excellency has reformed. He's now a full-blown Democrat. Yes, but that should not be the yardstick. We are going for elections. is a presidential system. Primary elections have to be conducted for flag bearers to emerge. You understand? And again, it's a full cycle transition. The incumbent is not running for an office. So all the lieutenants, that's why we have the issues of Emil Lokan, what have you, who believe, rightly or wrongly, that they have been part and parcel of this government in the last 8 years. They should be given a free space to test their popularity among the party stalwarts and pick the standard of the party. As usual with the third wall, you can't come out of it. Even during the the Second Republic, the Shagari, what have you, even though during those areas, it was better managed. There was no G5. The PDP is still battling the outcome of its primary. Somebody lost, was defeated. And ever since, he went gaga. So that cannot stop the politicians from going for the general elections. They can't be stopped. Even the ruling party, there are some elements who contested, like you can say now, where's the vice president? There are some key elements of the incumbent government that are not participating in Asiwaju's campaign. But that should not, you can't say Asiwaju should not go for continue with his activities because these people are not participating. It is their choice. But more importantly, it is not about manifesto. Almost all of them have beautiful manifestos. The question we should ask them is how are they going to execute them? That is it. We saw some of them on television, Okay, you say you want to jack up our IGR from XYZ to ABC and what have you. How? It's like one governor, the Olipompotic governor, he did 1 trillion budget. I interrogated the budget. His IGR plus his FAC allocation are less than 300 billion. Less than 200 billion.
Little wonder why you have...
You understand? So how, with the deficit of over 700 billion, how are you going to fund it? He said FDI. How? There is no any document, no official can explain to me how that FDI comes. So the problem is not Obi has beautiful manifesto, Konkoso has beautiful, Ibn Shore has beautiful manifesto, not talk of the frontline politicians, but how are they going to execute them? Are they willing? Do they have the capacity? Buhari has beautiful manifestos. He has a blueprint for Mambila. Where are we on Mambila? He has a blueprint for Baroport. Baroport has been done, commissioned, but where is it today? So these are the issues. And more importantly, where is the money? The ASU, we just came out of the ASU problem. Almost 70 to 75 or 80% of the public universities have jacked up their prices for more than 200%. How are you going to approach this? Whoever comes has to face ASU again. Or are you going to turn the university education into the private university we have? Nile, Base, Abti, and what have you? So these are the issues. It's a large population. Nobody is even talking about population. None of them in his blueprint is talking about population explosion. We are 218 million.
And to hit 400 by
you understand? How do you plan this? People need to zip off, for instance, but they're not talking about it.
Interesting perspective there, and zipping up the Nigerian special situation. Little wonder why President Obasanjo is saying in Port Harcourt that it appears that retired soldiers and professors have not given us the kind of country that we want. But another issue that came to the fore yesterday was a comment made by Dr. Eugene and also supported by Professor Jibrin, which is the National Assembly, talking about other components. The two alluded to the fact that whoever will emerge the president would not be a sole administrator. It does appear that the country is completely fixated on presidential candidates, forgetting that there are other very important components to this election, the National Assembly and the governors. Why is it so?
I must say, it is not even the National Assembly. I was discussing with a friend, I think 2 days ago. He came from one of the northwestern states. I asked him, what is the budget of your state? He doesn't know. But he knew that the federal budget is 21 trillion.
Yeah.
This activists, the expert, even the dialogue itself, the concentration is about the presidential election. We forget that the country is set up in such a way that we have 3 tiers. Yes, the central government controls almost 50% of what comes to the federation account. But we have 36 state governments with 74 local governments. Don't forget, yes, we do have about 460 members at the federal parliament, but we have 36 state assemblies. Nothing is going on. As of yesterday or the day before yesterday, the constitutional review, the amendment. Do you know what is happening? About 2/3 of the states have responded. You know, they have sent back their report on the key issues. Talking about the amendment. Autonomy for the state legislature, autonomy for the state judiciary, so that they should be on first-line charge, and autonomy for local government. Majority of them, like they did during the last assembly, they rejected them. Why? And that is the starting point. Nobody is talking. Go to some states, there are projects. Since Obasanjo's time, and Lady Okonjo-Iweala, they have brought some transparency into the public finances. I remember during Obasanjo's time, they publish all the FAC allocation on newspapers. With one click at the Ministry of Finance website of the Accountant General of the Federation, you will know what my local government of Gwale got during the last FAC allocation. Then I should take it off from there. Mr. Chairman, what have you done with this money? For so time you have collected this. Nobody is doing that. We are all in Abuja. The only parliament we know is the National Parliament. We did a story while I was here. Apart from getting the money these people expended, over 90-something% of the bills passed by the 36 State Assembly, without exception, were executive bills. When you are talking about rubber stamp, go to the 36 State Assemblies. Some they don't even know how to write their names, or to even read something. Some are even doing it in Hausa, but even to write it, they don't even know. Why? That is the starting point.
All right, well, there was this question a particular student asked, in the dialogue, during the dialogue, talking about leaders of tomorrow. He talked about, how do the youths actually know the one or the candidates with integrity, since, all of them seem to be talking about the same thing. They will do this, they will do that, they will end insecurity and all that. How do they know which ones to pick, the one with integrity to pick, and how can the youths vote wisely? And it actually reminds me of something that was still talking about a historical gap between this generation and the previous generation. There seems to be a missing link, and also considering the fact that history isn't even taught in some of these schools.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. This millennial generation, it's a Facebook generation, Twitter generation. You understand? Anything more than 2-3 paragraphs, forget it. No textbooks, no anything. But there is a way out. If you live in Zamfara, for instance, whether you are in diaspora, whether you live in the state or any part of the country, you know what the problem is. You don't need a clairvoyant to tell you who has the capacity. Look at their antecedents. It's very important. There is this Hausa saying, see, if somebody says he will give you a cloth, look at the one he's wearing. In mutum zai baka riga ka duba ta jikinsa. You understand? So that is it. So it's easy. There are some people that were accidentally catapulted into power, and they made a big mess of it. Civic education. Thank God it has been introduced back to school now. So you know who are the qualities of leaders. If Mr. A is parroting X, Y, Z, and what if you ask him how you're going to do it, he'll keep quiet. Go to the state, for instance. I'm concerned about the state, local governments. That's what. How many people are in Abuja? You understand? If you look at this thing now, ask your local government chairman, you have gotten this. Your workforce is this. So what have you done with this, and this? That is the starting point. If you ask today, even the NGOs have all moved to Abuja. National Assembly, National Assembly, National Assembly. Go to the local government level. If Mr. Sunday is the local government chairman of, let's say, AMAC, and he knows that every month after fact, NGOs will write letters and what have you, and threaten to take him to ICPC, EFCC, he will sit up. The same thing if we replicate this thing across the country. And even at the state legislature, go to the speaker. I remember I was doing a story here. I asked my correspondents, get me the approved budget of the states. Out of the 36, I got less than 5. I said, but we are a reporter. I have the federal budget. They said that it is not there. It's bulky. In fact, I got one guy from Northeast. I sent him money. I said, get the something photocopy. I will pay. Put it inside a commercial vehicle and I will take it in Jabi. And that's how it was done. I asked him, I said, go now, we do tons of stories. Because they know nobody is even asking for those documents. So as youth, for instance, we should use social media, to ask questions. Like my chairman in Gwale local government. Say, but the chairman, I will mention him, tag him, you got this, what have you done with it? Consistently, then he will be careful. And he will sit up and become serious.
Interesting developments there. One more thing I would like you to speak to would be the comments of the U.S. envoy, who expressed delight to be part of that dialogue and how the envoy looks forward to that. But very importantly, she expressed the full confidence of the United States for INEC to conduct what they believe would be free, peaceful, and fair elections. But other very interesting additions to that declaration would be that they had already drawn up a list. They won't tell us who is on that list of people they would most definitely deny visa should they play any role in scuttling the electoral process in Nigeria. How reassuring is this threat? What was the significance? I mean, sitting and listening to her yesterday, some were of the view that this appeared like a subtle meddling. Others are saying probably that is the only things that our politicians are afraid of, because if they mess this place up, the alternative heaven is not available for them. What do you make of those comments?
I think it's a welcome meddling or imperialism or what you call it. Nigerians, we like it. And we thank the United States for that. It is this, what you call subtle meddling, what do you call it, that ensure free and fair elections, even in 2015. You remember the election in Ikiti in 2014? Remember how military? We saw a semblance of it in Washington. We saw what happened in Kogi, of these off-season elections.
And I do.
But immediately the United States brought a list. We saw seriousness in Edo, in Ondo. The people who mobilize talks, military men and whatever, in broad daylight, they all went into hiding because they said they are going to slam ban on anybody. So it's a very welcome development. And more importantly, you remember in 2015, during the tension and what have you, John Kerry was in Nigeria 3 times. And that's why, up till tomorrow, the Jonathan's people are saying that the U.S. sided with the opposition. And, you remember all the issues and what if you, when the president calls the White House, said the president will get back at you. The next day or the next hour, you will see a White House spokesperson saying that we are urging all stakeholders in Abuja to ensure a free and fair elections in 2015. That helped tremendously. And coming forth, what the US says, that is the only language they understand. Like you rightly said, all their investment is there. Most of the outgoing governors who are key actors, openly, you understand, they're behaving like garrison commanders. The moment they leave,
take off.
And in the US, stay in Dubai, the Interpol is there. If you like, go to Cayman Islands, the US is the police of the world. No hiding place. So it's a very good development. We thank the United States for that. Yes, if they don't fear us, at least God has created some people that these politicians fear now. All their children are studying abroad. Look at what is happening to former Deputy Senate President for 12 years. It can happen in Nigeria, rightly or wrongly. I'm not talking about the case itself. But it can happen in Nigeria. But it's happening in the UK. Ibori was set free by EFCC in Nigeria. He was arrested
in London.
In Dubai, rather, and taken to London. So, if you call it meddling, if you call it neo-colonialism or imperialism, is good for us. And that's why, whatever, we are not against colonialism per se. We take the good part of it. During colonial days, there are no bandits. Electricity 24/7. There was waterborne.
Interesting. Interesting analysis and perspectives there from Nuruddin Abdullah. We want to thank you for spending quality time with us in the studio, and I'm sure our viewers at home would have also enjoyed your invaluable submissions and insight into most of the issues that formed the various subjects that we touched on this morning.